Hi, and welcome to Changemakers with Eleanor, the podcast where we dive into the lives and lessons of those who are making a difference. I'm your host, Eleanor Baggaley, and in each episode we bring you inspiring stories from leaders, coaches, and people who are not just dreaming of change, but making it happen. Whether they're penning their first book, working in their community, or leading a revolution in their industry, you'll get a first-hand look at how they're shaping the world. If you're looking to leave a mark or simply love a good story about modern-day heroes, you've come to the right place. Here, we're all about changing the world, whether that's one person's world or the world in general. So grab your notebook or just a comfortable seat and let's explore these fascinating journeys together. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts to ensure you never miss an episode. Let's go change the world together. So on this episode, I have the lovely Alistair Donaghey. So Alistair, do you want to tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what it is that you do?
Thank you, Eleanor, for that kind introduction. My name's Alistair Donaghey. I've been in construction for at least 50 years, which means I'm reasonably old in that category.
Experienced, maybe rather than old.
No, it's old. There's no experience. Old experience, we could say with that. So started off as an apprentice bricklayer. Moved across to England 40 years ago. You can obviously tell because I've got a really strong London English accent. And been in construction, was in production first, then moved on a side step or better step, whichever, into health and safety. Promoted myself up through health and safety to the regional head of safety with a tier one company. Left that company 2 years ago, set up my own company called Ready for the Gate CAC. And that's where we started our journey with working on how to promote a book or write a book or get involved with a book. My journey to writing the book started 10 years ago when I was volunteered by my boss at the time to go and attend a job fair within a prison on the Isle of Sheppey called HMP Elmley. Hadn't a clue where I was going, hadn't a clue what I was doing, hadn't a clue actually why I was there. Why would I want to get involved with these people? Who were these people? It's a prison. What can I do? And I think that was the start of my journey. For like a lot of people, they see all the publicity on TV, not very good publicity. It's very relevant now to people getting released in that. But my journey into the prison was one of sort of like that was that eureka moment where I went to the job fair. I met approximately 50 men at that fair. It was very forced face on that day, and their first question was, "You going to give me a job?" And no, not going to give you a job. But what I'm going to do is work with you to produce and make you a commodity that somebody wants to employ and be the best version of yourself. And that's basically where the journey started. And we sat down and planned where they were in their life, where they wanted to be, and what their aspirations were. And it was managing that from all elements, from their point of view, and what the industry demands, because we within construction have a huge sort of shortfall of the next supply of labour into it. And what I found out with 88,000 people locked up in prison, that's a really good supply of labour, which are looking for work, wanting to be better educated. What I found out as well, that they weren't from backgrounds that I was relevant or understood. I came from a very stable background where I had a lot of support. I had a lot of help in that to get me a good basis, even though I was raised during the Troubles, as we like to call it in Northern Ireland. But there was a real good family baseline, so I had real matriarchs who helped and support me with that. And that's what I found out when I speak to the men and women with convictions, that they haven't had that support. And a lot of people in prison just need that helping hand to say, I want to break this cycle that I've got myself into. I don't know how to get out of it. Can somebody please help me? And basically that's what I was doing at the job fair. So I left the job fair with more plans and actions than an actual thing, and went back to the industry and said, look, there's a real chance here to help and support people. What can we do? And to be honest, they rallied round and an amazing support to help and support me on my journey. A lot were negative, saying, well, why do you want to help these people? What do you want to do? There was a lot of stigma.
What was your motivation for helping them? What was it that drove you to think, actually, I need to be the one that helps these people to, because there was a focus on trying to reduce kind of reoffending rates as part
Yeah.
of it, wasn't there, as well? What was your motivation for wanting to kind of help them to reduce the reoffending rates and just, well, give them a better life, I guess?
I mean, the motivation was when I sat back in the clear light of day and looked at it, it was such an easy fix. We were short of labour in construction. There was a load of labour in here. All we had to do was then just connect those dots. It wasn't as simple as I thought it was. That was one thing that I found out, it was just like I couldn't rock up to a prison going, I'm a construction company, I need 5 labourers. Can you please give me 5 men who want to work or women who want to work in construction? I take them away and give them a job. That would be utopia if they could do that. But there's all the protocols, there's the safety measures, there's everything else to do. And I've spent the last 10 years breaking down those different barriers. What I also found out that each prison, and I think there's 117 of them under or His Majesty's thing. There's private prisons as well, but each of them are a silo. So they don't talk to each other. They don't share ideas. They don't share problems. So you have to go in and deal with each prison as a separate commodity and work back from there. What I've also found is that there's a lot of staff in prison who are really, really enthusiastic and want to support, but get really frustrated by the number of speed bumps, as I like to call them, but the protocols of getting people, through the process and getting them what I like to class as job ready, so we can then offer them to supply chain partners and tier ones for employment.
So presumably you've helped a fair few number of prisoners kind of as they get ready for release. Do you know how many you have kind of supported with that?
So before COVID, we had I was working with HMP Elmley, and there was 3 girls involved down there, and they were just phenomenal. They were absolutely phenomenal. And the feedback, it's really hard to get stats out of a prison because they're sort of like thinking, well, what are you going to use the stats for? So you have to get permission from the Ministry of Justice to get these stats out, and it's like looking for, hen's teeth. You just can't find them, you see. So, but anyway, the girls did amazingly, and what we found was that working within the Dry Line Academy in a program called Ready for the Gate, which the business was named after, which gets people job ready. We had trained over 100 men in the year, and none of them had reoffended. So we found that had worked, and it has been proven, and the stats prove it, whenever you can get the stats, that if you get somebody with convictions a job, it reduces their option of a chance of them reoffending by 90%. So there's a real good basis to do this. The hard part is getting everybody aligned with employers with that, because there's still a huge stigma of employers not going in to meet the men and the women face to face for whatever reason. I mean, I've been really privileged to do keynote speeches at expos and that, and everybody's really enthusiastic and they get all, yeah, let's do this. You can see them all getting fired up. And then you come to them saying, great, let's go and meet these people. You go, not really sure I want to do this. And I went, well, they can't come out to see you. So how are you going to go and see them? And you don't really want to employ somebody that you haven't actually spoken to or met, or because they need a huge part of working with people in prison is that they need to trust you, to hear your words, to feel your body language, to see what you're saying is
And I
genuine.
guess a lot of people who are in that situation have been let down multiple times in their past as well, haven't they? So there is going to be a huge lack of trust that is probably quite a lengthy process to build back up on their part.
Well, I've had over the last 10 years some very grown up conversations with people about what we do, why we're doing it, or we're not a tick box, where stuff like that. And what you have to remember is all the stuff that a lot of companies do, my own included, is pro bono, so it's free of charge. We're going into prisons to work with them. It doesn't cost the prison any money. We don't get any money out of it. What we're trying to do is get a second opportunity for people who want this. And we're asking them to trust us. And the trust comes free flowing once they realize that there is a job at the end of all the hoops that they have to jump through. One of the other things that we found in Elmley, which was amazing, and not all prisons do this, some do, some don't, is that they've got like trustees, or what they call red bands. And these men and women are phenomenal, from the part that the people on the live wings trust these people, what they say, and that these people trust us to what we're trying to do. So they're sort of like the go between to saying, well, don't trash what they're trying to help you with, because they are good outcomes for you, but you have to do your part as well. We're not the magic fairy. We don't make everything out. We'll give you the opportunity, but you have to get up and you have to grab that with both hands and say, look, yeah, I want you to help me. Can you help me? And of course we can help you, but you want to be wanted to be helped, because there are career criminals, and they don't come forward for help or support because that's their choice, and that's okay as well for them. It has to be a choice that people make.
So, with obviously the positive impact it has on reoffending rates, has it been easy to get buy-in, support, financial backing from prison service, police, government, whatever else it might be, or has that been one of the challenges?
Everything that I do in prison is free of charge to the prison, even setting up the dry lining academies. That's free of charge, because what we're doing is we take prison officers from the prison and we train them to be dry lining tutors, so they go back in and set up their own dry lining academy. What our industry is amazing at, and why I love it so much, is that when I go to people for donations or sponsorship or support, yeah, it's freely given.
So
British
the
Gypsum.
support has come from the construction industry rather than kind of within. Okay.
Yeah, we don't. Prison give us, prison industries help us. They do the fabrication of elements of the dry lining academy for us. The prison gives us a workshop. The prison gives us the tutors and the areas to work, and that's sort of like the trade off with each other.
No, sounds good. Sounds good. So, where did the book come in? What was your motivation to write a book about your process and kind of the journey that you'd gone on with this?
I think the book was it was an overnight success. It took 10 years to do, so it was quite easy to do from that one. But like I'd always documented as I went along, because what I found was that I was going to each prison, that I was meeting different people. People would leave, new people would come in, and I kept saying the same. So I wrote down my version of a dummy's guide to setting up a dry lining academy. But there were so many other elements to it that you had to get education involved, you had to get people in live wings involved, you had to get different. So all this was all written down and documented in different folders and different bits of paper and typed up and stuff like that. So that was all put in one big folder. And as I went along then, and when I left the tier one that I worked for to set up the Ready for the Gate, then I thought, well, why don't you write a dummy's guide to setting up a dry line academy? And so I got all the stuff out and sat down and thought, God, there's an awful lot of stuff here, and I thought, well, why don't you put it into a book? And I thought, I always fancied writing a book. I could see myself as a bit of an author. I can tell a good story if I have to do it. You see, the more alcohol consumed, I can really tell a good story.
Can't we all?
So, yeah, well, being Irish, of course, couple of pints, I'll tell you a good story. It might be the truth, but we never let the truth get in the way of a good story. And so that's where that basically came forward, was that I wrote it all out. I rewrote it out again. I didn't think that was good enough. And there's a lot of stuff in that. Nobody would want to read this story. Nobody cares about this story. Why are you writing this? So you go through all them things and go, well, I'm going to do it for me. So for me, I sat down and I wrote out all the print. And then I thought, right, I've got like 30 odd pages here. That's a book. That's a book for me. And so, and that's where my process started with. I got all that and thought, well, what do I do with it now? So I basically reached out to people, thought, I've got this. I tried it first on my friends and people I'd worked with, and went, oh, that's a really good story. And it was really engaging and we really enjoyed it. It was a page turner because we didn't know what was going to happen. I went, okay, I didn't really see that, but okay, that's fair enough. If that's what you got out of the book, it was good. And they went, so what are you going to do with it now? And I went, I don't know, I suppose I better try and see if I can get it published. And I went, and that's where I sort of like, oh, how do you do this? So then, of course, you go for Google, as always. And you go, how do you publish a book? And that spat loads of information at you. Go, you could do this, you could contact that. You can. There was honestly, it was mind-boggling what was out there, and I phoned these people or I emailed them or whatever, and it was just. We can do this for your book and we can do that for your book, and here's the cost for that, and there's a cost for this. And I went, I only just want to publish a book. It's just like, and it was a real trap. I hadn't a clue which way to go. I was all over the shop, and it ranged from £500 to get your book published to £7,000, and I went, what are you getting for £7,000? Like to publish a book? I mean, it's just a book for me. So honestly, it was. So then I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll go onto LinkedIn and I'll have a conversation with a few people I know. So I did, and I went, oh, you published a book, and you published a book, and how did you do it? And they said, oh, I went and did this, and not sure if I want to do that. And I went and did that. And I've seen books that people went online and got them published online, and they looked like online books. Nobody was ever going to buy them. Nobody was ever going to read them. It was purely for their own pleasure that they did it. And then they were handing them out to people, and people are going, yeah, thanks. But they weren't engaging because they hadn't got it's a very strict process, which, thank God, somebody introduced me to yourself. Because, and again, when we had our first conversation and I asked all the questions, and well, what do you do about that? And what do you do? You sort of did like a dummy's guide to publishing for me. And I went, oh, I like that. I'm not so sure about that, you see. And then you were asking me, oh, have you had this proofread? And I went, right, proofread, okay, right, need to find out what that is, you see. And that's how green I was at it. That's how new to this writing process. Hadn't a clue about any of the, what you describe, how you do it, what's the protocols you follow. I probably started at the end and worked back, which is
You
usually
wouldn't be
where I do.
alone. It's all good.
Well, but what I liked about it was that it was where it was like, a grey area where no, you couldn't find right information. That when I sat down and when I went through it with you, you explained it back to me the way that I had sort of imagined it and envisaged it in my own head of, yeah, that's where I want to be, and that's what I want to achieve with it, because you asked very specific questions of what the book was about, why did I bother writing the book, what I hope to achieve from the book, and what were the follow on from the book. So all very, very relevant questions. And I mean, they were quite simple to answer. The book was a journey of curiosity where I had written out everything. I thought this was amazing in my eyes. But what I learned after talking to people about the book is a blueprint, but it's a blueprint for curiosity. And it's also a challenge to anybody who reads it to saying that can be improved. That needs to be improved to get these speed bumps, Elliot, you're speaking about, of non-engagement or non-involvement. You could consider this, and that's what I'm expecting from readers of the book, to come back to me and saying, we loved the process. The process was very good. Have you considered doing this? Could you do that? Is there another way to have approached this? And that's exactly what I wanted to achieve from having the book published. And I've been very, very lucky that the book has been accepted by HMP library within the camp. So it's freely available to all the men and women in Kent prisons, free of charge through the libraries, which has been great support for me. And again, I've reached out to the industry as well, and people who know me on LinkedIn and stuff like that. I've used that to good, and they've bought the book and read the book and given me not book reviews, but feedback that they enjoyed them. And in some cases, they've gone, "Oh, look, can we get involved and volunteer to support you, Ali?" And going, by all means, that's what it's all about. It's not what Ali wants or Ready for the Gate wants. Anybody can pick that book up and get involved and improve it. It's a book of continuous improvement.
So
That's
have you found that, obviously you said you wanted kind of that feedback, that buy-in. It certainly sounds like you have been getting kind of more buy-in from people as a result of it. Have you developed kind of the process is, the way that you work on the back of it from suggestions and things, or is that still kind of in progress?
Well, what we've done from where the book ends, I'm not going to give you a spoiler alert. If you want to know how the book ends, you have to go and read it. So, from the book ends, we have reviewed the training syllabus within our dry lining academies. What we've done, we've reached out to industry leaders like British Gypsum, etc., and we've revamped the training syllabus for both the tutors and for the outcomes of the men. It's only in men's prisons at the moment, but we're hoping to get it into a women's prison, because there's no reason women can't do dry
Yeah,
lining.
yeah,
They just
absolutely.
they just don't believe they can, but we can change that mindset very easily. But what we've done now is, now we've moved it on to try and get the industry to, in our industry, for we like NVQs, which is what we do to prove that we're moving towards competency, and we're pushing hard to get the dry lining syllabus approved as an NVQ level one, which will then be accepted even more within the industry
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
men who graduate off each course.
That sounds brilliant. Yeah, I can see kind of how beneficial that would be. Um,
Yeah.
obviously you said you started in one prison, and I think by the time we were working on the book there were three or four named
Yeah.
prisons that you'd got into now. Has that expanded further? Is it in more or?
Well, we first, Eleanor, when we first got the book was written about three specific prisons. It was written about HMP Elmley on the Isle of Sheppey, HMP Belmarsh in southeast London, and HMP Lincoln up in Lincoln. And the prisons accepted, let's try this, and we set up the dry lining academies, and the three dry lining academies are still running, and Elmley is the longest, and that's 6 years ago. Um, they've had their problems with COVID, they've had their problems with staff, but thank God, the whole part of the three academies set up was that they had to be sustainable. And if companies stepped away, tier one stepped away from supporting them, the dry lining academies would be standing on their own 2 feet. And the past 4 years have proven that they do. It is sustainable, and they're still going strong. And yeah, really pleased with the success that we've had out of them. One of the biggest blockers is that again we're not connecting the dots from these prisons to getting the people who have been on the courses lined up with the employers. So that's the journey that we've learned from the book that we need to improve. We need to get that process and protocols fine tuned so that everybody gets the opportunity who has attended the course to get job employment. And that's where we are at the moment with it. We have moved on to a further two prisons, HMP Coldingley and Surrey and HMP Highdown. And at the moment, we're in processing of setting those up within the prison. We have the tutors out on their 6 week syllabus with the supply chain partners training them how to do dry lining in what we class as the real world. We've had free training in British Gypsum Training Academy, so they know how to do it to accreditation within the industry. So yeah, it's really good what's happening out there. So the sequel of the book two, might be coming. You never know.
So where do you see this in kind of 5 years, 10 years time? Is it a case of, I mean, I'm guessing that sustainability is an essential part of it. Do you foresee this growing in terms of the number of prisons that are offering the academy? Is it the better connections with employers? Like where in an ideal world, where would you want it to be in 5 years' time?
Well, what it would be is that I would start to shut prisons down because they're not needed because we're training people so well. So that was my whole intention, was to reduce reoffending and helping to shut prisons. That
I like
that
that.
was my BHAG. You see, don't spend money building prisons. Spend it on teaching people skills,
Yeah.
then get them out of prison, and they won't reoffend it. What we're teaching people to do in dry lining is the opportunity. Now, a dry liner can earn £85,000 a year. So it's a trade or semi-skilled trade, depending on whether you want to argue that point, which is another story for another book. Uh, but the opportunities are there because it's a very dynamic industry. Construction's amazing. The dry lining is a huge part of it. So when we went back to our industry and said, what will we train the men and women in prison to do? They went, we're short of dry liners. So that's where the idea originally came from, was that. Um, what I want to see, there's 117 prisons. It's free of charge. For suitable prisons, they have to be able to, there's a criteria that we have to do with them. It's free of charge. Why don't they take it up? The challenge is back to them. It's there on offer. So the more they challenge us to do stuff, the better we'll become.
Sounds great. I love that idea of let's get rid of prisons. I always used to
Yeah.
say when I was younger, let's get rid of adult life coaches because we sort the kids out and we give them all the tools and the strategies and everything that they need so that they don't end up kind of having to unpick things and like undo problems and things later on in life. So yeah, I really love that idea of actually let's focus on solving the problem rather than just keep sticking a sticking plaster on it, essentially, that's not actually helping.
A lot of the men and women that I meet, and I ask them, what do you want and what help and support do you want? Because it's important not to tell them what to do. We're not there to fix them. We're not fixers. We're there to help them be the best version of themselves, and that's what it's all about. And each person needs different support and different help and stuff like that. And that's what we're there to try and do as best we can. But the people who I tend to engage with, they've been round, as I call, the circle of doom. They went out re-offend, back in, out re-offend. And now, for whatever reason, they realise they're not very good at doing what they're doing, which I've had grown-up conversations with them about. You're not exactly the best thief in the world because you've been caught in the fight. Maybe you want to think of a different career. So they go, that could be a good point. But also they've got to the stage in their life where they realize what they've done is wrong. They've met somebody, they have a family, they know that what they're doing is not going to give them, there's no sustainability in that. They'll just keep going around and get bigger sentences. So they've grown up. They've seen their mistakes, you see. And one of the things when you meet them for the first time in a careers job, fair, whatever you want to call them, they turn up with a letter telling you all about the crimes they committed. So that you can talk that through with them and about how they intend to not do it again and stuff like that. We tend not to focus too much on their past. We focus a lot more on saying, right, we know you've made the mistakes and you've done your declaration letter and stuff like that, but how are you going to improve going forward? What do you think is going to help you and make you a better person? And why do you want to do this? Have you just got out of your cell to come and have a cup of tea? Or do you think that we can actually help you be a better version of yourself? And why would you not want to be that?
Indeed, indeed. If people want to find out more about kind of you, the work that you do, where to get a copy of the book, where is the best place for people to find that information?
The best place, I'm on LinkedIn. So if you look for Alistair Donaghey on LinkedIn, you'll find Ready for the Gate and that. But I do have a website, which is readyforthegate.co.uk. Look at what all the stuff that I do with it. I'm also a tutor and teach people and do safety and do site stuff. So I'm really, really lucky and very privileged that I do all the stuff in my business that I really love doing. It's not difficult. All the stuff with the prisons and work with the prisons is pro bono. So it's free of charge to the prisons and people who want to talk to me about it. People have obviously asked me, well, what do you do for your money? I'm like I said, I was a CITB tutor, so I get my income from the tutoring that I do with that. That's how I do. So then I'm able to give back through the teaching to help and support people. In the website, you'll find a nice big picture of the book, Ready for the Gate, The Forgotten Workforce. And click on that, and that'll take you to a link where you can buy that. All the proceeds from the book go back into supporting people with convictions. And I also work with victims of crime, with domestic violence charity as well. So I split the whatever I make in the business back between those two. So we're helping people who are causing the problems, but we're also helping the victims of the problem. So it's a double whammy there. There you go.
Sounds lovely. And before we tie up and go, can you tell us an interesting or fun fact about yourself? Although a lot of
Yeah.
everything you've talked about has been an interesting and fun fact, but just something maybe a bit quirky.
Oh, well, one of the things you see, it happened when I was, when I was a senior site manager that I met a girl. You don't know where this is going to go, but it's okay.
I'm wondering whether I shouldn't have asked this question.
No, and what it was, she challenged me to do ballroom dancing. She said, "I want to learn ballroom dancing," and I went, "Okay, right." So I went, "How do we do that?" So we went and did a basic ballroom dancing taster course, and I fell in love with it. And I've been ballroom dancing now for the last 24 years. And
Wow, I'm
I
impressed.
do I do medals, I do cups, I do all, so yeah, I love it. I dance every week. I have a teacher. I go to a teacher every week, and we dance and we put myself forward for different exams, and I challenge myself for that. So yeah, I'm a ballroom dancer. There you go.
I
I do
love
Latin.
that. I would never, ever, if someone had given me a list of like 100 things, that would never have been one that I'd have picked out for you. Oh, wow. I really
You're
love
not
that.
good.
That's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Or commonly known on construction site as, "Oh, here comes Twinkle Toes."
I can imagine that it goes down well.
Oh yeah, it does. I go, "Ali, what are you doing?" I went, "Well, I used to do a lot of running. What are you doing now?" I went, "I do ballroom dance." "Well, I don't think you do." And I went, "I think I actually do." And then you go, "And here's the proof." And I went, "Oh, that's really good." My other half wanted me to dance. "I can't dance." And I went, "Everybody can dance." So then we go in. We'll not forget about the work. We'll just talk about dancing. Did you watch Strictly? Did you enjoy that? Honestly, it opened a whole new world to me.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I can imagine. Oh, well,
So I
thank
put
you for
on my
sharing that.
Cuban heels and my Cuban heels on, and away I go. What more could I ask? So
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I love that you've left us with the thought of you ballroom dancing there as well.
yeah,
So yeah, we'll make sure that the links and everything get shared so that people can find you, if they
no
want to kind of
problem
get in
at
touch
all.
and ask any questions. But thank you so much. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you on.
And thank you for inviting me and for all your help and support in making the book the success it is. And my favourite dance is Foxtrot. There you go. Just
Ah,
leaving you with that snippet before I go.
love it. Thank you very much.
Um,
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Changemakers with Eleanor. I hope you're leaving as inspired as I am. If today's story has sparked something in you, remember it's never too late to start making a difference. Whether it's writing that book you've always dreamed of, stepping up in your community, or starting that campaign you're passionate about. If you enjoyed our time together, please consider giving us a rating and review on your favourite podcast platform, and share this episode with someone who could use a little inspiration. Your support helps us to reach more changemakers just like you. Join me, Eleanor, in the next episode for another deep dive into the stories of those who dare to dream big. Until then, be your greatest. See you next time.